started. Good evening and welcome to Copperfield's Books virtual event with Carrie Davidson in conversation with Abby Raphel. My name is Jamie Madsen and I'm the Marketing and Events Coordinator here at Copperfield's Books, and I'll also be your host for the evening. Copperfield's Books has been committed to literature, education, and creating community together since our founding in 1981. We're thrilled to be offering free online events to keep our community connected while we are still forced to be separated. As COVID-19 continues to endanger the future of independent bookstores like us, you can show your support for Copperfield's and help keep us alive by purchasing a book through our online store. We thank you for your continued support. I'm also thrilled to announce that all 9 of our store locations are now open for inside service as well as curbside pickup every day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So just a couple of housekeeping items before I introduce tonight's speakers. We will be utilizing the chat box to provide links to view upcoming Copperfield's events, links for purchasing Carrie's new book as well as her audiobook, which is read by her. And we'll also include my contact details for post-event questions and information. Additionally, the Q&A box is your go-to with any questions or comments for the author. The format for tonight's event will feature 30 to 40 minutes of speaking and will be followed by a live Q&A. We will try to get to as many of your questions as we can, as your feedback is welcomed and appreciated. If you look at the bottom of the Zoom screen, you will see an icon that says Q&A. Please submit your questions here, as this will be more convenient for the Q&A portion. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce tonight's speakers. Carrie Davidson is an expert in the business of human mastery. She formerly led human resources at Columbia University and was the executive director of the Caring Initiative, also at Columbia University. Currently the founder and CEO of Tournesol Wellness in New York City, Carrie helps individuals and organizations maximize relationships by leveraging their unique interactive styles. Her groundbreaking system catalyzes the magic that unfolds at the intersection of frontier science and ancient teachings. In conversation with Carrie tonight is Abby Raphel to discuss Carrie's new book, The Five Archetypes. This title takes readers on a deep dive into her practical system that motivates perpetual growth and lifelong purpose. The method enables each of us to reinforce what we're good at while developing personalized skill sets for predicting and overcoming challenges, which I'm sure we could all use a little during this COVID situation. And with that, I'm pleased to hand it over to Abby.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for hosting us. I'm seeing some things come in right now through the Q&A. So if we can re-enter the 5 Archetypes quiz for the folks that would
no
like
problem.
Yeah, we'll get that up for everyone. And hi, folks. West Coast, we're over here on the East Coast, so it's like 10:07 for me and Carrie. We both have our coffees, right? Coffee.
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah. And y'all are you're enjoying your cocktails while we're enjoying our coffee tonight. But I just put in the chat if you wanted to like start engaged, because we love to be in community, because if this was like a live book event, Carrie would be asking you questions, we'd hear your voice and your energy. So if you just want to chat in, what is emerging for you, what is rising and expanding for you, we just like to have that energy as we're entering into our dialogue. And so yeah, we welcome you. And why am I here? Hi, I'm Abby. Dear friends with Carrie, and I met Carrie as a client, actually. She has Tournesol Health, and I was considering renting office space from her, and I met her and I was like, what is this 5 archetypes? I'm a student of self-discovery and personal growth. I've done MBTI and values assessments, and I've done all these different retreats and personal growth assessments. And it's like, this is really interesting. So I signed up with Carrie as a client, and it was pretty powerful because when I went through the program with Carrie, I did it at a dual lens. So it was my own type, you know, I was interested in my own archetype, but that of my partner. And so there was a really interesting dialogue there for us to take through and have growth. And then I applied it to some business conversations. And then I applied it to what was going on with COVID when I got really stuck. And I'm like, I can't move. I can't take action on certain parts of my life. And so she consulted with me on that. And so since then, we've become collaborators in this journey of the 5 archetypes. And so that's why I'm here, because we're partners, and Carrie is a dear friend. And really, Carrie, I think what people want to know is like, who are you? What brought you to this work? What is your background? And I think that's a good place for us to start.
Sure. So thank you, Abby, and thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Copperfield. So, you know, as Jamie said, I started off in human resources because I've always been really interested in understanding human behavior and human behavior in relationships, in relationship to your work, to your boss, to the people that you manage, in love relationships and parenting. I have 3 kids that I'm still trying to figure out. And so I came across this method working with my teacher and my friend and colleague, Dr. Stephen Cowan, who is an integrative developmental pediatrician here in New York. And he uses this method to teach children how to understand their innate gifts, how to overcome stress states, and how to have more compassion and empathy for themselves and for others. So we started a nonprofit together after I started Tournesol Wellness. And in my work with Dr. Cowan, I started to see how this method could really improve relationships with adults. I was doing it with kids and it was fabulous, but it started to bleed into my work. I do vibroacoustic sound therapy. I'm an Ayurvedic nutritionist. I do energy work. And it became a fascinating turning point because it helped people have a very deep understanding of themselves, of their stress states, their tendencies, their fears, to understand why they got stuck in destructive patterns and exactly what to do to pull themselves out. I have never seen anything as powerful and as easy to understand. Children get it in minutes, and adults, it changes their lives. So that's kind of where I came from and why I am so addicted to this work.
So the work is based in, Chinese medicine. So can you frame that for people that are joining and how that relates to, our relationships to life, our choices to nature, just kind of the background of Chinese medicine and how it applies?
Yeah. So these 5 archetypes are the 5 elements, the 5 phases, or the 5 forces that are the basis of Chinese medicine. So they're thousands of years old. People have been working in using this as a healing modality for physical pain, emotional pain, healing from disease, and preventative care, for a really long time. And the piece that we've kind of lost has been this transformative, almost emotional, mental health behavioral component that was kind of at the seat of how it was practiced, thousands of years ago with like shamans, people who would help you through your midlife crisis. You would learn how to sit with discomfort and understand how your nature dealt with this discomfort in an internal environment component and with your external environment. And it gives you a very clear roadmap on how to have success and how to understand new growth and potential and how that is born out of our deepest, darkest moments. But this system, which has, based in these elements, fire, earth, metal, water, and wood, can be applied to any challenge. It doesn't have to be midlife crisis. It can be, why does my child not want to sit and do his math homework? Or why, do my partner and I always have, different feelings about going to social gatherings? Or why can't I ever really understand my purpose in this world? Why am I not fulfilled by my work? So, it's a real, the correlations go from organ systems to emotions to fears to what you can and can't tolerate, who's always going to drive you crazy, who you're always going to drive crazy, who nurtures you, who you nurture, what happens to you under stress, what your core needs for safety are. And when you understand it, your life is just easier, and you start to be able to predict and overcome pitfalls in love and work relationships and parenting. And life is so much more enriched when you understand yourself and you understand others. I was telling someone today that one of the things I love about it is that it kind of injects humor into a place that's usually pretty serious and hard to understand, that we suffer so much in these places of not understanding each other, this disconnect, and like this rift, but really it can be something that's very tangible and easy to understand and overcome.
Yeah, because when it reminds me when I came to see you, you know, I'm an earth, so I need connection and empathy and communication with others. And my partner is a water, so he loves solidarity and reflection in being alone. And you taught me how, like, we can meet in the middle or connect, and it's not one is right or wrong, but it's like, how do we really, you know, unify? So that's really what's beautiful. So the folks that are on the call, I'm entering right now an ask. So when we get the Q&A, we'll ask you to enter the total scores. So we definitely want your top and your lowest amount. So enter the 5 scores plus a challenge you're facing. So I put the form in here, and I'll repeat it a few times. If you can do it in one succinct a message, that's good for us, because if we have to like scroll through, it's a little bit of a challenge. So you want to enter your 5 scores, and then you want to enter in a challenge that you have. So can you give an example, Carrie, of like a challenge, many challenges that people might be facing right now in life?
Sure. I have right now, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And so I have a lot of questions that come up around what's next for me. I'm having trouble in this uncertain time, or what's wrong with me? I'm super creative, and all my friends are feeling fear and grief and loss. Other things, why can't I exercise? Why am I not motivated to have a routine? You know, my partner and I are arguing about, you know, about where to live or how to spend our evenings. I'm not getting much sleep. You know, I'm having digestive issues. There's really, it's a mind, body, and spirit system. It's really the only one I've ever found that's this kind of like on some level, it's a personality typing system, but it's really meant to help you understand exactly how to grow through challenge. And you can't separate out the mind and the body and the spirit from, you know, when you're looking at an Eastern perspective. So it addresses all of these components. So any issue that resonates, you know, on a physical, cognitive, behavioral, mental, or spiritual level, you can enter.
Yeah, so it's our relationships, our partnerships, our parents, our kids, our world and work. What are those challenges? And then it's sometimes like, how do we thrive? Why are we attracted to certain people? So I think this is maybe a good time to like dive into like what the 5 archetypes are. And I do it from the good old book. So you can order the 5 archetypes from Copperfield books. We love to support our locally owned books. And we're going to like talk a little bit about the 5 elements, 5 archetypes, and how they interact and flow to give description for people.
Sure. So I need to start, it's really important to start with understanding each of these archetypes, that the descriptions I'll give you will correspond to people whose primary, so their highest score is this one. We all have all 5 in us, so you will see that your score includes, you know, scores from all of them, but we do have usually one that's primary. So I'll start with fire. Fire people, their gift to the world is hope and optimism and glass half full. They need touch. They need romance. They need excitement. They need to be seen. Under stress, they tend to go into panic and anxiety easily, big drama over little things. Under their biggest fears revolve around loss of love, loss of connection, being ignored, not being seen. And then you have, let's go to Earth. Earth people, their gift to the world is empathy and unity and community. They love being needed. They are pleasers, they are caregivers. Under stress, they tend to go into overwhelm and worry. They ruminate usually about social issues. They worry a lot about fitting in. Their biggest fears revolve around abandonment. I can't believe I'm doing this at 10:20. I'm remembering it.
Great, you're doing great.
I am so on my game, man. And it's the
Both of us.
Coffee. All right, let's go to metal. I got 2 down. Metal people, their gift to the world is beauty and perfection. They tend to be, when they are there at their best, they are great at forgiveness and understanding. Metal people, they notice small details that the rest of us sometimes miss. They hold themselves and others to very high standards. They tend to be critical of themselves and others. Their biggest fears revolve around making a mistake or being wrong. And under stress, they tend to over-focus on the small details, sometimes missing the bigger picture. Sometimes they could focus too much on what's wrong rather than what's right about a situation under stress. So then we go into water. Water people, their gift to the world is peace and deep meaning. They are the ones of us who can distill the truth out of mystery. They saturate themselves into understanding people and things. They crave knowledge. They are philosophers and dreamers and poets. They tend to like to spend time alone. They like to think about ideas. Under stress, they tend to over-isolate. So they tend towards depression. Their biggest fears revolve around not being meaningful to people, to the world, becoming obsolete, or in making the wrong choice. Then we have wood. I can't believe I got one more. I'm gonna make it. Wood people.
Got it.
Wood people, their gift to the world is freedom. They are trailblazers. They are risk takers. They love a good challenge. They are competitive. They go, I don't know if you guys know Tough Mudder, but they do like Tough Mudders, and they do marathons. Their biggest fear revolves around confinement. They can't easily tolerate people or things getting in their way of reaching their goals. They are visionaries. They like to move fast. They like to win, be first, be best. Under stress, they tend towards very quickly towards anger and frustration, but they will just as quickly forget about it. But sometimes they will leave a trail of destruction in their path. And so the others of us around that quick burst of anger feel it and hold on to it a little bit longer than the woods. And so I think I got it, yeah?
Yeah, you got it. So now I'd love for you, you're doing great here. So now I'd love for you to talk about like the flow of energy, right? Like how you gain energy and what soothes. And hey people, this is the most, the next 2, like we really want to like know who we are, but the magic in all of this is like knowing who we are, like who fuels us and who soothes us and also who triggers us. So that's what we're going to go into right now. And this is like the key nugget. If you could listen to anything in here, it's these next 2 parts. So can you talk about like what fuels and what soothes?
Sure. All right. These relationships among the 5 are what is absolute magic about this system. It's when it comes alive, when you understand how you impact others, how these types impact you, what you can tolerate, what you can't, how you grow. So for fire people, well, let me go back really quickly. The nature that comes after yours in a clockwork fashion, that's the one that you use those types of skills and activities to cope in the face of stress. So fire people cope through earth. I'm fire, in case you didn't notice. Fire people, when we feel panic and anxiety, we need our community, we need our peeps, we need our Abbies to call and say, help me, tell me everything's going to be okay. We need connection, we need who can we trust, who's there for us, who has our back. We can also actually, earth is food at its physical level, so eating something nourishing, not gummy bears, like we were talking about before, although every once in a while it's not terrible. Earth people soothe through metal. Metal is the breath at the physical level, and the behavioral level is organization. Clean something, organize a cabinet, clean out a drawer, fold up your sweaters, wipe down the bathroom. That kind of structure gets you out of that overwhelmed worry and obsessive thinking. It structures your mind. So then metal soothes through water. Take a break, walk away, take a drink of water, go for a swim if that's possible for you, journal, take a slow walk around near a body of water. It's about just getting quiet and taking a break and taking a rest. Water people soothe through wood. Wood is taking action. Wood is movement. So move your body. Well, not many people are going to the office these days, but if you can't get up and walk around, do some chair yoga, do some stretches. Literally change your perspective. Get up and look at something else. Wood is also making a plan. What's the first thing, if you're feeling stuck, what's the first next thing you can do to move your agenda or your plan or your project forward? Wood people soothe through fire. Fire is optimism. Fire is, call someone who can remind you that you've got this, that you've done it before, that you're accomplished. Look at what you've done. You've created so many things. You're gonna be awesome. You're gonna get past this. It could also be watching a silly video. Call someone who can tell you a joke, cheer you up. That's how wood will soothe. The nature that comes just before you, so the one right before you.
What do we want to start with?
I guess I'll start with fire again. That one is your nurturer. People who are your nurturers and your coping skills, those people who are those primary, also usually feel really comforting to you. They're easy for you to be around. You guys nurture each other. But your nurturer, the nature that nurtures you, so wood nurtures fire, that's kind of like your gas tank. You need a healthy dose of that on a regular basis to stay in your strength states and not so easily be pushed into your panic, anxiety, worry, fear, anger. So wood for fire would be making sure you have an agenda. If you don't have an agenda as a fire person, you're just gonna do what's fun. I can tell you from experience that when I have an agenda, I rock and I get stuff done. Fire people, fire nurtures earth. It warms the earth, right? So fire is all about feelings and playfulness and joy and optimism and inspiration. If earth people don't have a healthy dose of that on a regular basis, they will very easily go into their overwhelmed states. So they need that to feel nurtured. Earth nurtures metal. So warmth, community, food, being together with other people, taking group classes, harmonizing, communicating, having conversations, building relationships is really important for metal. Metal is really important for water. Metal is structure, having some structure to your day. Water people don't love structure, but when they have a decent amount of it each day, they do better. They don't get so lost in their imagination and off track. Water people, water soothes wood. And so what does that mean? That means wood people who love to move fast, and are more concerned about getting things done quickly than getting them done right, or in a collaborative environment sometimes, if they slow down, which is water, slow down, meditate, take a break, make sure you're drinking enough water, make sure you're getting enough sleep, your wood ability to create, initiate, and to drive us all forward in a new and beautiful way is much more balanced and much more effective. And you won't get as frustrated. You won't go so quickly into those anger states.
So we have about 6 minutes until we dive into the Q&A. One of the things that I think is the most powerful in the 5 archetypes is that oftentimes we sit with our strength, right? Like, you're a fire, Carrie, and I'm an earth. And like, oh yeah, that's me. I like people. And you're like, oh, I love fun and like energy. But the real growth, the real transformation, the real opportunity is in our lowest score. So will you talk about that for a moment?
Yeah, I mean, this system teaches us that like we're prone to certain reactions. We're prone to certain things that we love to do. We can get addicted to certain behaviors, but we're more successful when we question our tendencies. And these lowest scores and these challenging, our natural challenger energies actually provoke us to ask these questions. So it's a system for understanding that instead of reacting to stress states, use those stress moments to kind of invite yourself to take a deeper look at what's missing inside. A lot of times what we do is we go into feeling like we're victims of circumstance. And we blame whomever else was in, the room or in the situation for having caused my pain. But that pain is actually triggered by usually something that's your lowest score, or one of your challenger scores. And so your lowest score corresponds to people and behaviors and activities that you have the least tolerance for. And usually, when you are able to build your tolerance, first of all, recognize and acknowledge it through your scores, you'll see exactly who these people are and what these tendencies are. And in that space, when you can start to build those skills and that nature within you, your resilience is much stronger, and it grows a foundation where you can really grow more easily in the face of your challenges instead of reacting to them. But it earmarks, it pinpoints exactly what you need to do to grow. So it's not this, huge question out there, but it is very clear what you need to do.
And that's what you talk about in the book, optimization and harmonization, right? This is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so 2 other big questions that everyone has, which are like, what are our biggest triggers? So I'm going to pull this up for everyone as well. This is the magic piece because, I mean, I was in a situation with Carrie the other day and I'm like, oh, there's a wall there. I don't understand. But like, that person is a wood, but that's where I have one of the biggest opportunities for growth as well, which we talked about, like the triggers. So who controls us? And that's where we can get stuck sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this part, I love it and I hate it because I can never escape it. It just is, and it always is, always will be. All right. So as a fire person, my biggest trigger is water. Fire needs to be seen. Water can naturally, just in their own self-care, can retreat. And so it feels like we're being ignored. So that can be the most triggering to fire. Earth people are controlled by wood, right? Wood people are all about the individual, about me, about moving fast. They don't value small talk, whereas Earth is all about unity and community and building togetherness and teamwork. So that wood energy can feel very off-putting and uncomfortable for Earth people. Metal people are controlled by fire. Fire is all about fun and playfulness and pleasure. They don't really care about rules. And, well, I don't want to say that. That sounds horrible. I mean, we care about rules, but not as much as metal people. Metal people live in a space of, you know, they very much value rules and see, it's late, I can't think of the word, but they values and structures and consistency, things that are very difficult and uncomfortable for fire, and it makes metal feel uncomfortable. Water people are most frustrated by earth. Water people are highly self-sufficient, and they take pride in that. Earth people need to be needed. And so earth people want to take care of you, and they want you to want to be taken care of by them. Earth people don't like that. I'm sorry, water people don't like that. And it can become very, very frustrating and feel almost suffocating when all they want to do is be alone. And then who do we have? Wood. So wood people are controlled by metal. Metal people are all about rules and confinement. It's the number one thing that wood cannot really tolerate. Anything getting in the way, any person or situation getting in the way of wood's ability to reach their goals is highly frustrating. And so those are the relationships that can be the most painful, but they are our biggest teachers. Because the more you can tolerate your biggest challengers and the more you can empathize, have compassion for, and then see the hero behind that kind of, you know, pain or behavior, the more you can incorporate that into your own character and calm your, you know, how we get addicted to being who we are, and recognize how our own nature can actually cause harm just by being who we are. Right? And so that way you can have more compassion, more empathy, and you can, you know, we can build a world where we care about each other more. There's more connection. We're living in this epidemic of disconnect. We don't know who we are. We don't know how to care for our partners. We don't know how to engage at work. And look at what's happening, you know, in our country and in the world. You know, we need some system of learning and knowing how to live more connected to one another and to ourselves. And this is it.
A lot of personal examples there. So one quick question, and then we're going to go into a lot of the Q&A, which is, what happens when your scores are super separate or they're very close together?
Scores that have a broad range between them usually demonstrate people who have a lot of passion, and a lot of obvious passion, both in their strength states and in their stress states. So you'll notice, you know, it's the yin and yang in Chinese, you know, Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy, where you have this beautiful gift of passion and excitement around who you are. You're going to have that same passion in your stress states. It'll be that intense. It'll be obvious what you like. It'll be, you know, you'll make a big splash in the world in the things that you love to do. People whose scores are closer together are a little bit harder to read. They tend to be a little bit quieter. They tend to be a little more self-aware and self-regulate with ease and a little bit faster. They don't go quite as deep and as passionately into their stress states. Yeah, that's kind of the basic difference.
Okay, super. So let's throw it over to the Q&A. Do you have the box in front of you? Can you see it?
So let's see. Okay.
So, I think when everything is packaged together, we'll scroll through and we'll do the ones that have the full type plus the challenge. I think that's the best way for us to go through. So we'll start with Elise. You can see Elise's scores, right?
Yeah, so she's Fire 59, is that one?
Yeah, so maybe for the audience, start with the highest and the lowest and then the challenge, and then we can process it together.
Okay. Lack of motivation and routine.
So one of the things you'll see Carrie's doing right now is like everything is in a flow. So she writes it as it is in fire, earth, metal. So and then she's able to do the diagram because everything's connected.
I have to draw them like that. That's the way I got to do it. And then I can understand, because my method is I understand them in relationship and I need to see them in their flow. Exactly. Yeah. Like which ones are your challengers. It's easier for me that way. And we just can't figure out how to get the computer to do that for me. So I got to write it. All right. So Elise, was talking about a challenge of lack of motivation and routine. And so, what happens is when she has her highest earth, and if you notice that her earth is a lot higher, more than 10% higher than anything else, in her chart. So, people who have high earth and they don't have as much of the other natures to balance them out can tend to feel stuck. The one thing, and it's your second lowest, it's pretty, your water and your wood are pretty close to tied or lowest, and those are your challenger energies. Wood, which is your controlling energy, right, when we just talked about which ones control, is the least tolerable to you. Wood is motivation. Wood is drive. Wood is, I don't give a bleep, I'm doing it. I don't care what you guys are having for dinner, I'm going out to wherever. It's like that individualistic nature, that motivation to move, to keep things going. What happens, Earth will just kind of become like paralyzed. A lot of times when they feel the overwhelm and worry of loss of relationships, of confusion around pleasing everyone. They can't keep everyone happy, so they don't do anything. They tend to also they nurture ideas. So, an earth person will have an idea for starting a company, and they'll think that they need to gather a lot of people and information and really understand the context of how everything fits together and who's going to be on the team and who can I trust. And so they'll nurture this idea over time, whereas a wood person will have an idea. The next day they'll start the company. 2 weeks later they'll sell it. They'll start over again. So they're the opposite of wood, the opposite end of the spectrum as far as speed and motivation to move. So, so what I would suggest for you would be to consider looking at, number one, the physical plane would be exercise. What's your relationship to physical exercise? Do you physically move every day? Do some sort of physical movement? The second would be to create goals, but simple, achievable goals that your brain then gets used to the fact that you can set and achieve goals. It's like a little bit of a neuroplasticity exercise. If you do something simple, then you can start to actually create bigger goals and achieve them, and your brain, your earthiness won't get stuck wondering like, I don't know, is it a good idea? Let me ask someone, let me talk to someone. So it gets you out of that earthy need and moves you more into that wood motivation and forward movement. That I'm sorry I can't like actually see your face and see if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. So Carrie, so what I'm doing is, I know we have, dozens. I mean, I know they had many people respond, but the ones that are going into the chat are earth types, earth and fire. So let's take another one that is, the primary here is a metal. It says anonymous attendee. Mm-hmm. And then, because I think there's so many people on the call, maybe we'll go over to the time and intimacy profiles, so we can, round it out for folks, so it's not so dominant on earth and fire. Because this is what we find. Will you tell Carrie what we find on these calls, like who actually shows up and who doesn't? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You want me to go into that?
Well, just for a second, just so people understand.
Yeah. So basically, earth people tend to like community. They like to do group activities. They want to be with other people. They love communication. They love tossing around ideas. They learn by stories. They learn by conversation. They learn by context. So they will tend to, they miss their community, especially now when we're all kind of home and we're not with our peeps. They would want to join something like this. Water people, I would be shocked if we have any water people on this I see one.
Oh, we'll do that.
There's one tide, water, earth. But there's a lot of earth there. So see, it makes sense. So primary waters really, they're not huge fans of social gatherings. They appreciate their time spent thinking. They like to be alone. Fire people love being engaged and talking to people, and so they would probably attend. Wood people will attend if it's not a waste of their time. Like they tend to be like, they like to use their time. When are we getting there? Are we going somewhere? Where are you going with this? It's a lot of like, da, 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 da. Like I need to, they're quick. They will get you out of a burning building unscathed. And you can count on that. And they sometimes can be in that mode all the time, you know, depending on how high their score is and how low their challenger scores are and how much tolerance they have for pause. Metal people will come if they believe that they're going to learn something that's specific and clear and how to do something better with a teacher who has proven themselves worthy, who has done the work over time, who has studied, and, you know, someone who is a scholar, you know, or, you know, they believe knows what they're talking about.
So that's great. So let's go to you have the anonymous attendee, that's the metal, the 72.9 is the high. And then maybe we can go to, you mentioned that there was a water. So I'd love to do that one too.
So the one I have in front of me is 70.2 wood, 71 fire, 80 earth, 74 metal, and 80.
Yeah, go for it.
Go with that one. So this person says, dealing with processing the grief of a recent breakup has been very daunting for me. I have been hearing a lot of that. I think the divorce rate, was it in China or Brazil? Somewhere was like 3 times normal during COVID. So this is happening. This is going on a lot. So grief of a recent breakup. So here's the thing. Each of the 5 has an addiction, right? An addiction, a thing that they, when it's not in check, when they don't have the balance of the other 4 natures strong in them, they can tend towards getting addicted to certain behaviors. Earth types are addicted to relationship. Fire gets addicted to pleasure. Wood gets addicted to winning. Water gets addicted to thinking. And metal gets addicted to practicing, over practice. So this person is interesting, right, with this absolute balance between water and earth. And so sometimes you'll see people who have these challenging combinations as their primaries. So what happens with earth craves relationship. Their biggest fear is abandonment, and it will be very hard for them to move past a breakup. They tend to blame themselves in divorce or in breakup because they're so good at relationships. They are the prime caretakers among us. They are the Mother Teresas. So they believe that if there's a loss of relationship, they must have done something wrong, because that's what they're born, that's what they're on this earth to do. The challenge of having a similarly high score in water is that water people will saturate themselves into one person. They will fill that person up with every bit of them. They will dedicate everything. They will build a life with this person, and they will trust them 100% that it's a foundation that will last for eternity. And when that breaks, water people have this need to be 100% out. There's no like middle ground. It's either they're 100% in or 100% out. And so if you can imagine a person who has 2 pretty high scores in this earth and water space, there's that difficulty in a sense of the grief of the loss of the relationship, which is so difficult for earth folks. And it's being challenged by this need to be 100% out. Because it's very hard for water to be, there's no middle ground for water. They distill the truth. They need the truth and mystery. right? And so it's probably really hard for you for that reason. And what I would suggest, let me look at your scores really quick. You know, your lowest is wood. Even though everything is pretty high, you're probably a pretty passionate person, which shows me like you're having, you know, he or she used the word daunting. Daunting is a tough word. And if you look at this person's scores, they're all in the higher range. So this person is probably really passionate when he or she is, you know, is in their strength states, and also very passionate in this pain. And since your lowest score is wood, I would suggest making sure that you are physically moving every day, having some sort of physical movement. I would also try to envision a future. Try to envision past this fear of the unknown, fear of not knowing whether or not you will find love, not knowing whether or not it will come tomorrow, not knowing whether or not the pain will pass. That's all this deep water fear and dread, and the potential that you will disappear. That's kind of where water goes. But to know that what water nurtures is wood. And what that means is that if you can have faith and hope and belief in the fact that in this gestation period, like a seed in darkness, right, it's buried deep in the earth, is about to burst forth with something new and beautiful and nourishing for this world. When you can believe in that, that's wood. You can start to understand and appreciate the grief from a different perspective and heal. And so injecting wood into your life will be physical movement, thinking about envisioning a plan, making a plan for your day, even if it's simple, like get out of bed, go buy some bread and get a coffee. And then you can check those 3 things off your list and you feel accomplished. You feel like you were able to move past something. And each day do a little bit more. And that's what I would suggest. And I'm sending you a huge fire hug. I know that's painful. It really is. Been there.
Yes, I'm just going through the questions. Not all have the scores with the question, but maybe we can go to just to sum up what they might be dealing with. So Kathleen, her I'll give you the scores right now, Carrie. Fire is 61, earth is 70, wood is 62, metal 71, and water is 63. And she didn't have a question. She asked for the question, but we didn't let it, it didn't go through right away. So what might a challenge be for this person during a period of COVID, unknown, transition, social justice?
So metal is 71 and earth is 70. I'm gonna make sure I got those right.
Yeah. Let me just, Kathleen.
Sorry. I'll just go with it if we want.
Yeah, I lost it in the chat.
Okay. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
So if metal is 71, earth is 70, and Kathleen's lowest is fire at 61. One of the challenges that Kathleen will probably deal with is questioning her own emotions, judging her own emotions. Fire is about emotional flexibility at its core. Fire is feelings. Fire people learn by intuition and feeling. Their feelings are intense. They feel everyone's things also. So when fire is your lowest, you have a tendency to not pay attention to your feelings, not value them. And so you might say, gosh, I shouldn't be angry, or I shouldn't be sad about that, or I shouldn't be right about feelings. And so looking at her scores, that could be something that's a little bit hard, and potentially could pose a challenge. She could be getting stuck in her story, right? So metal people with not a lot of fire, with lowest fire, can tend to focus on the past and blame, well, because of blah, 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 I can't be that, or I can't do that. And And that fire energy, if she's able to bring up her fire energy, she will be able to be more flexible in those moments where she feels like someone deceived her, right? Or gets too stuck on the past and can't see the potential in a different future, or moving past judgment or criticism of herself or others. The other thing I would say is to make sure she's getting good sleep, make sure she's staying hydrated, because water is her way out, her coping mechanism. And it's also somewhat low. It's not very low, but it's, it's kind of close to the firewood. And that is also the way she copes. And so she would need to bring up her water score to be able to move past those moments of judging her emotions.
So Peggy asked, how do I know the type of my partner or a friend?
Yeah, so what I would suggest, if you guys are open to this, share this assessment link with your friends, with people you work with, because once you understand what they mean, you can really start to enrich your relationships.
Yeah.
It is fascinating. I teach this in companies. We go in and solve, problems that have been systemic over time that people can't figure out. Relationship problems, communication problems, motivation issues, and also in marriages, in friendships. As soon as you understand and you see your partner's scores, it just, all of a sudden, everything is just not so darn serious and painful. It's like, oh, it's not like my water buddy is ignoring me. They're just water and I'm fire. And we have a challenge innate in our being that can also be absolutely magic when we understand each other. Mm-hmm. And so you start to learn exactly like what are the bridges to relationships, like Abby was talking about, originally she and I were talking about. There are tactics that you can use, but yeah, I would have everybody take the assessment, and you can start these conversations that are fascinating and really can build strength in your relationship.
And what about people with children? Like, when is the best time, or what age? How can you understand your children's type?
So a good acupuncturist will be able to tell right around like by 6 months old what your primary nature is. But my nonprofit has a lot of stuff for kids. There's little videos and instruction, and you can go to, it's t-kids.org. And you can do a lot of little fun 5 elements things for kids there. But you can also take the assessment with your child. It's really, it does a lot for your relationship with your kid to go through these questions together and understand how they see themselves compared to how you see them. It's a real, it builds unity, it builds connectedness. It builds harmony. It gives you something to do, an activity to do together. Some kids, as long as they can read and kind of understand the questions, they can take it themselves. But you might just find it, wonderful to as an activity to do together and to do some self-discovery. Good.
So as we're edging toward the end, like we all can't hire you, Carrie. Like we'd love to package you up, and all 70 or 150 whoever's on this Zoom meeting wants to have a piece of you. So how do we, you wrote this book, right? And so how do we access the book? Obviously through copperfieldbooks.com, we can buy it, but what's the process of this book and the ongoing implementation into our lives?
So I wrote this book to be a map, to be a framework and a guide that you can use throughout your life, because this is a model for how to thrive in the face of challenge. And I've got some news. We're going to have challenge all the time, probably every day of our lives. And they're all going to present as different, because as soon as you build resilience to one thing, you're faced with something else that stinks. And so we're constantly, I believe that's why we're here. We're here to grow, we're here to learn. And when we have a framework for understanding exactly how we do grow and learn and thrive in the face of challenge, just makes life more enriching, makes the ride more fun, and everything easier. So yeah, I mean, definitely go to Copperfield, get the book. There's a lot of information on my website, fivearchetypes.com. I take
So accessible too. Like I
It
talk
is.
about it at all my friend dinners and everyone's like, we want a book. I want Carrie to sign it. And so can you. Like, it's just honestly, friends, like your friends. It is so, I mean, in any point that I'm struggling, I'm like, I go here and I have a little toolkit. It's like in my back pocket. I'm like, oh, this is the reason why this is happening. And this is how I can enter into it. And this is how I can solve. Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I take a small number of independent clients and I work with corporate, but it's really accessible through the book and through the website. It's great stuff.
Good. Well, I think we're entering the end of our evening together. I don't know if Jamie's going to come back on or we sign off, but yeah, I think Jamie's coming in.
Hey,
That was so fascine. I feel like a little more enlightened, but I also want to just dive into your book like right now. So I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to chat further through that and, you know, being so personable. It was really nice. I appreciate the audience feeling, you know, being vulnerable and putting out their scores and being willing to talk about it. And as many of our attendees have said, you're hired. I assume that's for both of you.
We've done in the past, right? You want to talk about that, Carrie? Yeah.
Well, what I was really quick, Jamie, can you save these Q&As and I can answer them later and send them to you and you can share them if you want? I don't know if that's possible, but then Abby, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh, that's what you were gonna say?
Yeah.
I am not going to sleep tonight.
It's 11 p.m. for us.
Oh my God.
That's a really great question, Carrie. I'll have to take some time after the event ends to see how I can do that. But what we will be doing in the next day or so is sending around a follow-up email that will include a link to this recording, and it will also include links to purchase her book as well as her audiobook. And I want to thank you all for attending this evening. It was really a pleasure.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Abby. I had so much fun.
Thank you.
Great. Have a good evening.
You too.